Hello, my name is Katie Sire, and I am a member of the Trellis Supportive Care Team. I want to welcome you to this time for reflection and remembrance, a virtual gathering that was offered in November. You may be joining us as you go through the holidays or into the new year. Wherever you are and whenever you find us, we welcome you. Several of our grief counselors and chaplains will lead us in words and rituals that honor your grief and offer support and hope. Soon we will be led in a candle lighting. If you have a light source, a candle, an electric light, or even a flashlight, we invite you to have it nearby. As we share rituals, music, and memorial tributes submitted by some of our families, it is our great hope that you will find connection here to your loved ones, to the spirit of this virtual community that has gathered across time and space, and to the comforts that you need today. Thank you for being here.
Hi, my name's Rennie Adcock. I'm a chaplain with Trellis Supportive Care. For 20 months, we have felt the disruption and ripple effects of the pandemic. You may be feeling the impact of many types of losses as you have coped with these changes. And for many of you, this season has been one of grief after the death of someone you dearly love. The combined effect of the pandemic and the losses like yours has left many people feeling isolated, anxious, weary, and perhaps even hopeless. It is into this space that we invite connection and warmth. If you have a candle or other light source nearby, I invite you to join me in bringing light into this space. Light is a symbol of remembrance, of hope, and of warmth. We light our candles in memories of all those we have lost and in honor of the connection that we can find with one another.
I'm Carol Ebron, one of the grief counselors. As we allow this light to brighten this shared space, I invite you into a deeper connection, allowing yourself to become more fully present in this moment, gifting yourself with care for the tender parts of your grief and memories of your loved one. As you settle into this moment with me, I invite you to feel the support around you, connecting with the chair that supports you, feeling your feet on the ground, and noticing your breath as it moves in and out. As we settle here, we are reminded that we are connected to the earth beneath us and to all those who share in our grief and who are gathered here today. We are reminded that we are not alone. Let us stay here for a few more moments, noticing our breath as we deeply breathe in and slowly breathe out, honoring our tears, celebrating our memories, and feeling support.
Hi, my name is Amanda Reed and I'm a grief counselor. Today I'd like to read to you a poem called What I've Learned About Grief by Nancy Cross Dunham. What I'm learning about grief is that it need not be a heavy gray shawl to wrap myself in, clutching my arms tightly across my chest. Nor need it be a granite rock that I should try to push away. Neither is it, at least no longer, a vast, dark ocean ready to pick me up and slap me down without warning. What I'm learning about grief is that it is not me, but that it offers to become a friend. A friend who will lightly lay a hand on my shoulder when tears come in the dark. A friend who will laugh out loud with me at remembered silly moments. A friend who can still hear the music of our life. What I'm learning about grief is that this friend doesn't intend to leave me, but promises to hold my hand to carry my memories. A friend who will bear witness to my love as I venture toward the next day and the following night.
I am Chaplain Santiago Reales. Some of you submitted photos of your loved ones for us to include in a series of memorial tributes. Remembering our loved ones and celebrating their legacies can help us hold on to the special bonds that we share. If you did not submit a photo, you are welcome to share your loved one's name or photo as a comment on our Facebook page. Please join us in remembering as we begin our first memorial moment.
There's a light that shines in you, that shines in me, and there's a light I hold in me, a memory, your hand in mine, a passage through time. I think of the ways you would shine. You're where I belong, and it's hard to be strong. So I'll keep you in my song, in my song, in my song, in my song. Your memory is near, and I'll keep you here forever in my song. There's a light that shines in you, that shines in me, and there's a light I hold in me, a memory. It's just a start, but I know in my heart we'll never be truly apart. The road can be long, and it's hard to be strong. So I'll keep you in my song, in my song, in my song, in my song. Your memory is near, and I'll keep you here forever in my song.
Hello, my name is Rick Charles, and I'm one of several chaplains that serves here at Trellis Supportive Care. Thank you for accepting the invitation to set apart this time, a sacred time, for grief and remembrance, for discernment and direction. We all carry the loss of a loved one, or several loved ones, in our hearts today. This raw grief grows in our hearts as we anticipate holiday celebrations and gatherings. Amidst the sounds of the approaching season, we may find more desperate need for the quiet and a healthy focus. With that intention in mind, I'd like to invite you to join me in the labyrinth. Many of you may be familiar with the labyrinth as a path that you can walk. Unlike a maze, this path has one way in to the center and one way out. We have a labyrinth on our Trellis Supportive Care main campus, and there are others throughout our communities. Walking this path can help focus thoughts, encourage reflection, and create a sense of calm. Today, I'd like to guide us through a walk in the labyrinth, entering sacred space together, where awareness grows as grief is held. This path is accustomed to heavy steps, whispered prayers, tear-stained rocks, as well as relaxed breathing, sublime assurances, and newly discovered strengths or realizations. The labyrinth represents a safe space as well. Grief is welcomed here, but the path is noticeably narrow, as if just wide enough for each one of us to move forward in our own space. Notice upon entering that this is not a direct path towards the center. This path that invites you forward seems needlessly prolonged, as does our grief oftentimes. One of my favorite authors, C.S. Lewis, once remarked, after the loss of his wife, I thought I could make a map of sorrow. Sorrow, however, turns out to be a process, and grief like a winding valley where any new bend may reveal a totally new landscape. The curved labyrinth symbolizes the prolonged and the unanticipated that we might find. Going into a labyrinth, we hope to practice awareness and discover strength. In beginning, the steps in a labyrinth are often slow as we bring our weighty hearts into this sacred space. There is a posture of the heart that matches heavy footfall. We yearn to find comfort, and we ache to experience a release. This first measure of awareness is perhaps the most raw, acknowledging our pain and loss. For most, hardly any effort is needed. But in doing so, we move more easily into a posture of seeking release. Some seek to release the debilitating grief. Others seek to release hurts. And still others seek to release specific losses. In taking steps forward, you may want to speak words or prayers of release, or to meditate upon what it is you feel ready to let go of. Even as we learn to practice release, it may be worthwhile to acknowledge what we don't let go of. We don't let go of our loved ones and the legacies that they leave with us. We don't let go of the precious memories or the blessings that our loved ones have brought into our lives. We carry all of these with us. But there is the sorrow and the grief that, as Shakespeare once wrote, turns 1 hour into 10 and disorients our lives. With great love, there can be great sadness. We seek to release the sadness that debilitates and the grief that threatens. During these steps in the outer circles, as we find our path approaching a center, we might pause and stop, moving at times in order to acknowledge our loss again and express the intention of release. For some of us, this may be one of the first opportunities to unburden our hearts. Naturally, This might take some time. And again, we take another pause. The beauty in the labyrinth design is to invite awareness, and awareness produced through listening. For many, this might be challenging because our culture promotes talks, texts, and tweets. In this space, there may be enough quiet and calm, finally, for some to listen better to themselves, to quiet the mind, and for some to find comforting words from God. Sitting in the center of the labyrinth, this is opportunity for us to become centered. Again, a labyrinth is not a maze, with hopes held out for those clever enough to find the exit. A labyrinth is not a means to an exit, but means to clarity. And in the center of the labyrinth, we are still. We sit or stand and receive. We reflect. We remain. And if the release hasn't fully occurred by this time, we let the tears loose without worry. I've seen some walking the labyrinth, arriving at the center and taking a rock to commemorate an epiphany or a peace newly found. Some bring a rock into the labyrinth at the beginning and symbolically demonstrate their practice of release by placing it in the center of the labyrinth. Some choose the opposite, finding a rock along the path before they exit and take it as a reminder of blessing or new understanding. Whatever you choose, simply do so with your intention clear. And after your release, and after your having received, and with reflection upon your mind, choose the moment to return. Return to a familiar path, but with a different direction. As we enter the smaller circles, the clarity and greater peace allow those to shape space in your heart for strength. Some find that words of thanksgiving come to them, and from the center of the circle towards the end, every few steps invite a new word of gratitude. Or perhaps a repeated phrase or word of comfort may come to you. Whether moving towards the center or away from it, there may be moments when it is appropriate to pause and reflect, or listen to something as it takes more shape in your heart. When you encounter such a moment, you may want to stop in your steps and listen. As we return, our feet visit the same steps in the labyrinth that were traveled upon entering, now in a different direction. And perhaps like our emotions in life, we move through familiar spaces, and we might remember places with different postures and emotional weight. An exercise of the labyrinth is learning to move through familiar steps while listening and remaining aware. In a culture that rewards speed and has little patience with handling grief, please remember the utility of the slower steps, the intentional breathing, and the sacred moments that afford space for clarity. Even in the midst of your day, there is time for release, for receiving, for reflection, renewal, and return. May the gift of the labyrinth remain with you.
Walking the path, letting go as you come. All are welcome wherever you're from. Let go of the weight in your heart and your mind. Welcome it with love that is warm and kind. Receive the wisdom your soul yearns to hear. Number your blessings, hold them near and dear. Receive compassion when you're feeling lost, surrounded by thoughts that are tender and
I'm Elizabeth Brunson, a grief counselor here at Trellis Supportive Care. While grieving is an expression of loving, an important and natural response to loss, it can also be very overwhelming and disruptive. I'd like to introduce you to the idea of developing a container that will help you manage some of your grief. Those normal and natural feeling responses that arise, such as sadness, anger, guilt, and anxiety. For some, there may also be a more intense, intrusive memories or distressing sensations that may benefit from being contained. The container might be something concrete in your home or office. For example, a cup, a bowl, a pencil holder, a box, a vase, an empty bottle. Really, whatever is handy at the moment. We have a beautiful gold box here, but it can be something as simple as a mason jar. And we've put some yarn in here just to represent some of those feelings that you might be putting into your container. But you can also create a mental container with your imagination so that it is accessible at any time. Whether concrete or imaginary, a container can help you have a great sense of control when confronted with the overwhelming sensations of grief and sadness. When it is not an ideal time or place to experience our grief, with this tool, we hope to contain our feelings and sensations, to put them away with care and kindness, in order that they may be fully felt and examined at a later time, when we are feeling stronger or more whole, or we are more resourced to cope with it. For an imaginary container, there are 3 characteristics that can be useful. First, the container should be big enough on the inside and strong enough to hold whatever you put into it. Secondly, it should also have a two-way system so that you send things or place things into it and can take things out without any of the other pain, sadness, anger, anxiety that is already inside from escaping. And thirdly, the inside of the container should be comfortable enough that whatever you put into it will be willing to stay until you are ready to work with it. Additionally, if the feelings feel especially big, your container can have a lid that you literally close or can imagine closing it securely to provide you with a felt sense that the material will not pop out unexpectedly. So let's take a moment to practice. You can leave your eyes open or closed. And now take a moment to view your container, or you can visualize it in your mind. Now check inside yourself and see if you can access and connect with a distressing or difficult feeling or experience. It doesn't have to be intense, maybe something that is slightly bothering you. Now see yourself putting that feeling or experience into the container and closing the lid if needed. And finally, see if there is an upsetting thought or feeling combination, such as grief is really hard, and gently place it in your container. Imagine that all of these elements, whatever came up for you, is now securely and compassionately being held until you can work with that emotion or thought later. Take a minute and notice now how this feels. Hopefully a bit better. Remember, we can place our grief, all of it or just a part of it, into the container until we feel stronger and ready to take a fuller look at our grief. We can always return our grief to the container, but we may also choose to let that piece of our grief go, to release it and let it float away. Hopefully this resource will empower you. We can carry the container with us during the day or choose to leave it at home for a while. It will be there. It's always accessible to us if and when we are ready to explore it.
When I'm too tired to hold, will you hold it with me? When I don't have strength to stand, will you stand right next to me? to be filled, so I'll fill it with what fills me. A forest when I need to sleep, and water when I need to weep, and memories for me to keep. In this cup of grief, in this cup of grief.
Hi, I'm Chris Henson. I'm one of the chaplains with Trellis Supportive Care. And as we bring our gathering to a close, I invite you to hear these words from Margaret Mead in her poem entitled, Remember Me. To the living, I'm gone. To the sorrowful, I will never return. To the angry, I was cheated. But to the happy, I'm at peace. And to the faithful, I have never left. I cannot speak, but I can listen. I cannot be seen, but I can be heard. So as you stand upon a shore gazing at a beautiful sea, as you look upon a flower and admire its simplicity, remember me. Remember me in your heart, your thoughts, and your memories of the times we loved, the times we cried, the times we fought, the times we laughed. For if you always think of me, I will never have gone. Now may the peace that passes all understanding rest upon all of us this day and all our days.
Thank you for sharing in this time of remembrance with us. We hope that you have found space to remember your loved ones, to touch in with your own experience of grief, and to leave with a spirit of connection and reminders of support. Please remember that your Trellis Supportive Care team remains available to you for grief support. You may reach out to us at the number on your screen or via our website, where you may complete an online request for grief counseling and browse the information that we have compiled on our supportive resources page. It is our honor to walk with you in the seasons when you need us most. Thank you for joining us today. We wish you well as you continue on.